words, and
Okay.
people will join throughout. Yeah.
So thanks, Francesco, for being here today. It's a pleasure for us to have you present Wordscope and to hear the voice of translator, as it is important to discover what AI can do for translator. And, there are a lot of talk about that. So I think it's really important to share the information and, to show how it works, what it can bring, and then you can decide if it's good for you or not. But it's really important to try. So that's why we believe it's important to have your voice and to see, to have your input and your presentation today. So thanks for being with us today. It's a real privilege for us.
Thank you so much. And as I was saying, the pleasure is absolutely mine. And welcome again to anyone who is joining us today. If you haven't done so already, feel free to type in the chat where you are connecting from. And we have people really from across the globe, from Mexico to Egypt to Belgium and Estonia, anywhere. As Philip said, I'm first and foremost a translator and an interpreter, so I will try to talk to you as a colleague, as I believe that most of you are translators as well. But in addition to that, I'm also a university researcher and lecturer in the field of translation and interpreting technology. So I will also try to bring this kind of more academic and technical experience and expertise into my contribution. As Philip said, today we will discover and explore together the software, the tool that he has developed, which is Wordscope, and see how this can help us as translators leverage the latest advances in AI and machine translation and large language models, and we will discuss that in a moment, to enhance our translations, basically, as a support, as an assistant, as a tool that can help us improve the quality of our work and our workflows as well. So I will briefly share, I will just share a quick presentation. It's just a couple of slides because this is not a technical presentation. It will be very practical, very hands-on, but just to give you a brief overview. So you should now see my presentation, my slide deck in presentation mode. And if there are no, so if you say that you can see that correctly, I will move on. And as we said, okay, I can see Maria's thumbs up. As we said in the beginning, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. We will address them at the end of the session. But if there are some issues that need to be addressed immediately, for instance, if you do not understand something that I said, or if you want something to be repeated before move on, feel free to write that in the chat as well, and we will address that immediately. So the first thing that I want to say is that by being a translator myself, today's session is mainly conceived for translators. Of course, the content of this webinar and the opportunities that Wordscope offers are also helpful for other people in the language industry, but I've tried to design this and tailor it around the needs of translators from any path, any level of experience, and any familiarity with technology that they may have. And today's takeaways will be mainly three. First of all, we will very briefly understand key concepts of AI in translation, just to be sure that we use some common terminology when we discuss these topics. Then we will see how we can practically use and apply artificial intelligence in translation. And I'm saying that because I know a lot of people who consider AI as a buzzword in our industry, but cannot really find practical use cases for it. And instead, we will discover that it indeed has very practical implications that can be useful for our job. And we will see that in practice with Wordscope. And this will bring us to explore how we can integrate all these resources into our daily translation workflows. So the first things that I want to clarify, to give you an overview, is that, this is the agenda for the day. We will see, as I said, some key concept of AI in translation. We will see a demo Wordscope, and we will answer your questions. And please be connected till the end of the webinar, because there will be a special surprise for people at the end. As I said, the first thing is to clarify some concepts about AI in translation. And some people think that AI is something new, which has only been around for a couple of years, but actually artificial intelligence as a concept has been explored since the middle of the past century. And especially in translation, it has already been applied for several years now, because we all know machine translation, and machine translation is actually an application of artificial intelligence. So MT has, and the translation industry have truly been pioneers in adopting and integrating AI into workflows, because we know that machine translation and post-editing have already been around for years now. And I remember when I studied at university, it was still before the neural MT revolution. So we had the previous generation of machine translation, which was purely statistical. And I remember that we all laughed at machine translation output. Then with neural engines, the whole landscape changed, and accuracy and fluency as well improved dramatically. And soon machine translation became usable both for general users who could use it to get the gist of what is in a text in a language that they do not understand, but also for translator to use it as a starting point, to be refined and be leveraged for their own translation. And Wordscope as a tool combines and offers the translator multiple neural machine translation suggestions at the same time. So as we will see in a moment, you have a dedicated pane, a dedicated tab in the tool, where you can see simultaneously various machine translation outputs. And this has several benefits. First of all, you can compare alternative renditions between them. So it's like having multiple suggestions, like you would have from multiple human translations. Different MT engines will produce different outputs, and therefore this enables the translator to compare various target texts. This also allows the translator to more easily identify and spot errors and mistakes in the potential translation. And above all, in my opinion, and this is one of the major benefits of Wordscope and of having multiple translation engines, is that this keeps your attention level high. Because if you've ever done machine translation post-editing, it may be very mind-numbing in the long run, especially if you do that for several hours per day. Because maybe if you see that the output of the translation is good, you start to lower your attention, you start to over-rely on the system, and you cannot spot the mistakes, and the process is very repetitive. So instead, having to continuously compare various alternatives helps you keep your attention level high. Then after neural machine translation, that as we said has been around for several years already, at the end of 2022, with the launch of ChatGPT, the world became to know large language models, which are based on the same architecture of neural machine translation, which is the transformer architecture with the attention mechanism, which we will not discuss today, of course, because that is a very technical topic, but it's still based on the same system, on the same mechanism, but it offers It has some differences, but it offers other advantages. So large language models, as we've all witnessed if we've interacted with chatbots, are very fluent in language. They have advanced language proficiency, and they are also very adaptable, something that traditional empty engines do not have. So we can ask large language models to write in a specific style or tone. Moreover, large language models, as the name suggests, rely on larger context windows, so they can take into consideration a broader context when considering a specific word or a sentence. And of course, as we know as translators, context is everything to disambiguate the meaning of words. And finally, they also have an inherent, a built-in knowledge of the world. And I say that in inverted commas. We do not have time to explore that. So this is not, of course, general knowledge of the world, as some may think, like they are intelligent and sentient. But this is just to say that they have certain knowledge incorporated into them that helps them understand in a certain way what something means. So this was just to give you a brief overview of the tools that we will be incorporating and leveraging into our workflow. Now, I will stop sharing my presentation here so that we can move on to the practical part of this webinar and see Wordscope in action. And as I prepare to share the screen with you, I would like to ask a few questions to just to get to know you and know your experience and familiarity with technology. So first thing I would like to ask, with regards, and you can just reply by typing in the chat, with regard to the use of technology, how do you consider yourself? So do you consider what they call Luddites? So these were people from the 19th century who opposed to any introduction of technology and of automated processes in industrial processes? Or do you consider yourself curious, so someone who is willing to use technology at a basic level for daily tasks? Or do you consider yourself a pioneer, so someone who is an early adopter of technology? So just feel free maybe to type. I will paste the options in the chat now. Feel free to write the whole word or just type 1, 2, 3. I see that most people so far consider themselves as curious, and this is very nice. I hope this session will spark your curiosity even more. And then the second and final question that I would like to ask you to gauge a bit your mind about this is if you see AI as an opportunity or threat to our job as translators. So type 1 if you see, or just write opportunity if you see that as an opportunity, a threat, or a bit of both. Yeah, many people said both. Yeah, in this case as well, I see many people see both, and I think that is a good response from an audience, because that means that people are aware of the chances that these tools offer if you learn how to use them properly, but also the risks that are entailed in that. So I will now share my screen again, so I will no longer see the answers in the chat, but I think we basically already gauged more or less how our audience feels. And now I will just send in the chat a link to access Wordscope if you want to open it in your own browser and follow along. And we'll share my screen with the tool. Okay. So you should see, I think you see my my screen now. First of all, what's Wordscope for people who know nothing about it? It's a web-based cat tool. And as we will see, the interface is pretty similar to other cat tools that you may have worked with. But the fact that it is web-based, it's very convenient for translators because it means that it can run on any operating system. So whether you have a PC or a Mac or any other operating system that basically has access to a browser, that enables you to access this tool. And this is already a major difference compared to several, even leading tools in the industry. You will, if you open the link that I sent in the chat, you will you will access the landing page of Wordscope, where you immediately have the interface to work on the translation that we will see in a moment. And below there, you will already have a detailed outline of all the features that are offered by Wordscope. So we will work now with a Word file, a Word document that I have prepared. But as you can see here, you can work with files of several formats, and that is very convenient to avoid any conversion, which is something that sometimes is required. The other thing is that all the things we have discussed so far, so neural machine translation and large language models like ChatGPT, can be accessed in a single interface, and along with traditional CAT tool resources like translation memories and glossaries, term bases. And this is another very convenient thing because you won't have to switch among various tabs. And I mean, you can see that by yourself. I won't describe the whole web page in together because you can do that by yourself. I want to dive right into the action and translate a project together so that we can see what Wordscope can do for us. So I've prepared a text in Spanish. As I was saying, I don't know if I say that in the beginning, but I am a native Italian linguist. So my native language is Italian, and I translate from English, Spanish, and French into Italian. So I only translate into my native language. I do not translate from my language into my other working languages. But for the purposes of this demo, since we have people connecting from around the globe, I tried to use two languages that are widely spoken and that I can speak so that I can understand the examples. And these are Spanish and English, as most people who registered speak these languages. So after registering, we can create our project. And I just want to say, we can talk subscription plans at the end, but I just want to say that you can create a free Wordscope account, and you do not need to add any credit card to work on your first projects. You do not have to install any software on your local device. So you can just sign up and start working directly in the browser. And I have prepared a text that we will see, which is a scientific text that combines a bit of technical terminology, but it is also it comes from a popular magazine that addresses a broader audience and also use a kind of evocative language. So we will have a bit of both. From the main interface, we can either upload a file or just paste the text if it's a short text that we want we don't need to process as a file. But I will now upload my text that I've prepared, and we will just call this like webinar demo. We are translating the text is in Spanish, so I will just select the Spain version of Spanish, even if I know there are people from Mexico and other parts of Latin America, of South America and Central America. And we will translate into English. And I've already selected the subject, which is science, but we can select other subject matter areas as well. Before we start with the analysis, I just wanted from the setup phase, you can already configure some settings, like adding personal translation memories if you have your own TMs, and select the various neural machine translations, but we will see that in the interface. So we can start the analysis now. And like other CAT tools do, the Wordscope carries out a quick analysis of the volume of the project. It searches for matches in the translation memories that we may have uploaded previously. I have uploaded a personal TM before this webinar to show how matches are shown in this system. And it will calculate how much you've saved on word count based on the mix of translation memory and matches. And it gives you a percentage, an approximate percentage on savings on word count, and the amount of time needed to work on that project based on an average of 2,500 words per day. It also, if you're used to working in CAT tools and with certain LSPs, give you a detailed analysis on weighted words. That is something that some translation agencies use. And you can even split the project. If it's a project, you can split it between different translators, but we will not see this today as a case. So we can start translating our project, and we will see that for every project, Wordscope will create a dedicated URL. This URL is confidential. You will be able to access it from your own Wordscope account. And you should be aware that anyone who has access to this URL will be able to see this project. So if you want to share it with a translator who's working with you on this project, or maybe with a reviewer who will be carrying out the subsequent revision step, or maybe with your client or with any partner, you can share this link, and they will have direct access to Wordscope's interface. So let's now open our project now that it is ready. And we will see that we have a standard interface, the standard CAT tool interface, where we have on the left column, we have the source text divided in segments. On the right or central column, we have a target text. And on the right part of our screen, we have several, let me just close this because I can see your faces above the suggestions. We have various suggestions and matches. So first of all, we have the various machine translation engines that I mentioned to you that propose different options for our translation. In this case, I selected DeepL, Google Translate, Amazon, Translated Machine Translation Engine, and Reverso. But from the settings, you can select even more. I just selected a few to show how this works. You even have language combination specific machine translation engines, like you have Traduit, which is a Canadian MT system, which works between French and English. So I did not need that for Spanish, but you can set it up for if you're working with that language combination. We have the possibility to search in our translation memories to see if some terms or segments are already present in our in the translation memories that we uploaded. And we have the glossary section, where we can import or create on the fly our own glossary. But one of the assets of Wordscope is that we also have, from the same interface, access to several reputable linguistic resources. So we have access to, as we will see, dictionaries like YATE, which is very popular in Europe, is the European Union's official term base. We have several other resources from the European Commission, from international institutions, from international terminology bodies or healthcare authorities. And we can access all of this from the same interface without having to leave the tool and having to juggle between multiple tabs. So let's start translating our first segment, and we will discover what are the different possibilities that it offers as we go along. First of all, we can see that in our source text, some words are highlighted in yellow, and that means that these words are found in some of the glossaries which are connected to the project. Of course, we can, through the project settings, I will show this right away. Okay, we can select all the resources that we want. So I will now add my personal translation memory, but we already have some public pre-loaded memories which are attached to our project. As I said, you can select several machine translation engines and even sort them or change their order. So if I like DeepL more than Google, I can put it as the first suggestion, or if I think that for a specific domain, Amazon is better than the other engines, I can just drag it and use it first. I can customize it as I want, or I can deselect one or more engines if I just want to have limited options. As for terminology, as I said, we have a long list of terminology databases and resources and public repositories that we can select. We have NATO terminology database, we have the United Nations ITU glossary, we have ISO terminology, and here as well we can select or deselect the resources that we do not need. And we can do all of that from the settings, as I said, even before we start translating. So let's go back to our translation. As I said, these terms are highlighted in yellow because they are found in some of the glossaries and resources which are active for this project. So from the glossary page, I can see what is the resource that is suggesting this term. If I just want to double check if it's a reputable source which is appropriate for this domain, for this subject matter. And then if we go back to machine translation suggestions, we can see that changes and differences between machine translations are highlighted with track changes. So we will see that this is just the title of the text. So we will see that in much detail in subsequent segments. But let's just say that I am happy with how this title is translated. Maybe if we can go back to the title at the end, because sometimes in translation schools, they teach you that the title is the last thing that should be translated, especially if it's a magazine or newspaper article, which needs to be catchy. But let's say that we are satisfied with this translation, which is quite literal, and we can save and confirm the segment and move to the next segment. We can do so by clicking on save or with the Ctrl+Enter shortcut. So now let's go through the subtitle, which is also which we can be satisfied with, but starting from the next segments, we will see we can already start to see here. As I said, differences between various translation engines are marked with track changes. That means that additions and deletions are either marked and highlighted in red and green so that you can immediately see that at a glance. So I can see, for instance, that DeepL, which is the first engine in my order, uses the term Anvil, to translate desvelar in Spanish, but most of the other tools use the verb reveal, while Reverso uses uncovers, and I can immediately spot that thanks to track changes. I can also deactivate that if I do not want this feature to be evident, but I think that this is very positive because this can help us quickly identify alternatives and divergences between translations. And also this can help us spot what are the issues that may need our attention, such as ambiguities or things we should focus on. So let's say that we are also happy with this translation. Now let's move to the actual beginning of the text. Here you can see that we see on the central part between the source and the target text a percentage, which is the percentage of the match that we have with our translation memory, the personal TM that I had attached to the project. And as you can see, the TM is also shown first. It is shown before any machine translation suggestion. That means that our own previous translations are presented and considered more reliable and are and populate the segment first. And of course, in this case as well, we can see with track changes what are the differences in the source text and the target text. In the source text as compared to the text that we are currently translating, and we can decide if we think that this is a significant difference. In this case, the verb was different in our translation memory, but we can still translate it in the same way. But we can also see that some translation engines show alternatives for the verb, and we will see how that translates in the subsequent segments. Now let's start exploring. We've seen how we can use machine translation suggestions, and the difference you see now as we deal with longer segments, we see that there are more significant differences in terms of various outputs. We've seen how to handle translation memories and glossaries. Now let's see how we can resort and leverage more resources which are offered by Wordscope. So, for instance, I can highlight a term. Let's say I want to highlight, I don't know, maybe Caro Cruz in Spanish in the source text, because I am not sure what that means or how this expression is used. And if I click on the cloud button here, it will open automatically in the Wordscope interface a web browser tab where we have access to several resources. So this is like Googling this term or this expression and going through results to explore what this idiom means. We can see that we have the internal Wordscope tab where it searches for this expression in built-in resources. We have Traduit that, as we said, is another Canadian-based translation resource. We can search the term in word reference or the expression in word reference. We can even look for Google results and Google images. So if we are looking, for instance, if we're translating a medical text and we highlight a certain part of the body, we can come up with images to better understand what that part of the body is. And this is another extremely helpful a feature in Wordscope, because you can directly consult cloud services and browser output without having to leave your interface. And people who work on the CAT tool may know that this is one of the biggest struggles that as translators we have, because we have to stop our translation, we have to open our browser, look for results on the web, then we have to do a lot of copy pasting and go back to our interface, and that causes a lot of time lost, but also a lot of struggle and potential errors when having to juggle between several tabs. We can also do the same, of course, in the target text. We will see that in another segment that is better suited. So we just confirmed this segment. We see here we have another TM match with our translation. And we are also warned about some errors that the system automatically detects, which is tags, because we see that in the source text there are some tags, and we can add that manually. So, oh, sorry, I placed it in the wrong place. So we can add that. Just a second now, because I have to switch to Spanish. What happens that with their behavior seems completely okay. We can apply tags here. We may check the translation if that is appropriate based on the translation memory, if on the various suggestions. If we are satisfied with that, we can place the translation in the correct tags. And now let's move to the following segment and see how we can now explore the power of large language models and ChatGPT in that. For instance, this is the first time that the core word of the text, which is chaos theory, comes up in the text. And we may not know what chaos theory means. As we said, large language models are extremely powerful in the fact that they have advanced word knowledge, they have large context windows, and they have a lot of content which is built into their own systems. And they are extremely helpful for a variety of tasks, such as explaining or defining complex terms and simplifying. So chaos theory is a theory which is applied in many disciplines, from mathematics to economics to physics to basically anything. It's an interdisciplinary theory. But we may not know what this means. So we can just highlight the word or the expression and click on ChatGPT, and Wordscope will automatically open a ChatGPT tab in our own interface, and we can ask it to explain what this means. This also reduces the well, now it will show it in Italian because I have Italian in my settings, but it gives me a definition of what that is. It is that it is a branch of mathematics that deals with nonlinear dynamic systems, where small changes in initial conditions may bring to significantly different results. As I was saying, this also reduces the need to open a different ChatGPT interface and have to write the prompt, explain this, paste the term, and wait for the reply. So we have this pre-built prompts. For those who do not know what prompts are the input, the way that we interact with these models in the chatbot. So these are the things that we say to the chatbot, which have to be structured in a certain way in order to be effective. But Wordscope offers a built-in interface with built-in prompts. So this gives a definition, and starting from that, if we understand the context, we can see if the translation is appropriate. Now, I don't know if I can see there are some notifications in the chat. I don't know if this has already been addressed, but I think this is a good moment to specify the issue, to talk about the issue of confidentiality, which is a great concern among translators and linguists when working with AI, with machine translation, and with ChatGPT. Wordscope, as you saw, uses automatically several machine translation engines and ChatGPT, which are integrated into the system itself. And these can be used with a single license, with a Wordscope license, or even for free if you are using the free tier of Wordscope, the free tier of Wordscope. However, it is based on Pro subscriptions, on paid subscriptions of all these tools, and it has 3 levels of confidentiality protection. The first level, as I said, is that it uses the Pro licenses of all these tools, like DeepL Pro, ChatGPT Pro, and all these licenses ensure confidentiality. If you go and read DeepL's terms and conditions or OpenAI's, you will see that with the Pro version, the data are not used to train their models. They are kept safe and secure. Then the second level of security is that all these tools, you do not go directly to this tool's interface, but these tools are integrated into Wordscope through what is called an API. An API are individual single calls, as they are called, to these systems, to these engines, which are not stored because you call the system, you run the system individually for a single time, and the system is only used for that case, but does not travel through the interface and all infrastructure of the provider. And finally, Wordscope sends segments to these systems individually, and they are split into smaller portions. So it would be impossible to reconstruct the whole sentence through these smaller portions. So there are these three levels of confidentiality, in my opinion. But as I said, I mean, just having a paid license and above all an API ensures that by the very technical nature of how these systems work, the data is kept secure and cannot be used in any other way. So let's now just move to other segments where we have something more interesting, where I can show you more uses of ChatGPT's feature inside Wordscope. So we have dynamic systems. We may want to have a definition. We asked that before to explain what chaos theory was. Now we may want straightforward definition of dynamic systems. And here it gives us a definition. Sorry again, I don't want to change the settings now because it's showing it in Italian. I see Philip has activated his microphone. Do you have?
Yeah. May I just tell you that if you go in the settings of the ChatGPT window, you can change that into English. Yeah. And then or any other language. And so
yeah, I will just
you should get the answer from ChatGPT.
Yeah, thank you. Because I had
try again the translator definition
for my own projects. Okay, yes. Now we get the definition in Spanish. And as we mentioned, the settings tab of ChatGPT, I will take the chance to seize the chance to tell you that from this settings tab, we can specify the domain. And of course, this helps ChatGPT focus on a specific context. We can even address the audience. And style, as I said, these are some of the greatest features of large language models. And we can even add specific instructions like avoid passive voice if we want. But as in this case, if we, as I said, we are translating from a scientific magazine, we may specify the audience, like the audience of, if it's a magazine which is addressed to the general public, we may specify a general audience, or if it's for specialists and experts, we can change the audience. For instance, if you translate in the medical and pharmaceutical domain, I work a lot in life sciences and translate clinical trial documentation, and the same documents may be addressed to either patients or doctors. And in that case, of course, the use of terminology, the use of language changes a lot. So in such cases, you may fine-tune your model to a specific audience or style or tone to make it more suitable to what you are looking for. So let's move on and see more. Of course, we are not translating the whole text segment by segment. But for instance, one of the other popular features of ChatGPT is rephrasing or providing alternatives. So maybe we don't like the fact that this sentence has been translated. This phenomenon is known as the butterfly effect, a term popularized by meteorologist Edward Lorenz. So maybe we don't like this. We want this to be phrased in a different way. We can select it and ask ChatGPT to rephrase it. Meteorologist Edward Lorenz popularized the term butterfly effect. If we are happy with that, we can use this translation, or we can just click again the button. It will generate yet another alternative. In the same way, we can use ChatGPT to let's take this sentence, for instance, where it used this popular phrase that's to explain the butterfly effect and the theory of chaos, where it says that the flapping of a butterfly in Brazil can trigger a tornado in Texas. Maybe we are not convinced of the word flapping of butterfly, so we can ask it to provide alternatives. To this term, I cleared the chat to have a smoother experience. Okay, here it suggests fluttering as an alternative or beating as an alternative. Beating of a butterfly's wings in Brazil. If we are happy with any of these alternatives, we can copy I'm actually happier with the initial translation, but let's say that we are happy with this. We can just click on copy, and it will automatically copy it in the target text. And then another feature I see that time is running very fast. So some final features that I wanted to show you. In the meantime, you can see that I moved on a segment without including the tags, and I can see the warning here that shows that there are segments with potential issues, and if I open that, I will get the reference to the segment which is wrong. But let's see that we introduce a complete mistake in the text. For instance, we say that mathematical chaos as a term never refers specifically to systems that, although seemingly random, are governed by definite equations and rules. So this is a text that no spell check, no grammar check would ever detect. But as we said, large language models have some inherent understanding and knowledge of the world, of concepts, of meaning. So we can ask that to proofread our text, and it will check it. It will provide the correct translation, and it will also provide a rationale for the changes that it applied. It says that the originally translation incorrectly introduced never, which was not present in the source sentence, and changed the meaning. And it also suggests other changes to rephrase the sentence based on the previous correction. But this is just to tell you that how powerful these tools are in detecting things that with traditional Q&A tools that we have in our ordinary CAT tools would not detect, because Q&A systems are based on rules, and these rules cannot investigate the meaning of what we are doing, whereas large language models can do so. So we've seen that with ChatGPT, we can define a word, explain complex terms. We can even actually ask it to translate a segment if we are not happy with any of the translation provided with various empty systems. It can rephrase and rewrite, provide alternatives. It can, of course, correct spelling, but Wordscope has its own spell checker. So if we, by accident, make a spelling mistake, it will automatically detect it. Oh, wait. And it will, it's a bit slow now because I have too many things open. It will will underline the spelling error, but we can do that with ChatGPT as well. We can provide a back translation if we want to be sure that the meaning has been correctly transferred, and explore terminology. And finally, final thing that I would like to tell you is that within the Wordscope interface by itself, for instance, if we have a term that we are not sure that it's used properly, or we just don't like, we can even have its internal synonyms function that provides various alternatives for the specific term without having to open the ChatGPT tab, or without having to look for synonyms on the cloud. Then, once we are done with the project, we have confirmed all the segments, we can switch to review mode if we want to give a second look at our translation, or maybe we want to collaborate with another linguist translated. Of course, now we have not worked on all segments, but they will have to revise the translation and approve it. And they can even select the type of error that they corrected to provide feedback. Once we are done with the translation and revision, we can translate the document, we can download the translated document, or retrieve the original file. We can also have a bilingual XLIF file, which is handled by other CAT tools, and download the related translation memory. So these are the basic features of Wordscope. As we said, we have all the basic features that we have in any other CAT tool, so we do not have to give up on anything we are used to. We have our own glossaries, our own term bases. We can import our own translation memories, but at the same time, we can resort to integrated public sources, trusted dictionaries, reputable repositories. We can use various machine translation engines from a single interface without having to open or paying more subscriptions to integrate machine translation into our workflows. And above all, we can leverage ChatGPT from inside the same interface without having to open a ChatGPT tab, and at the same time being sure that we can ensure the confidentiality of the data of our clients. So as we are about to hit the hour, I'm truly surprised by how fast time goes, but I will now stop sharing my screen and share just a final slide before we move to questions. So to recap a bit what we did and share the gift that I said before we hit the hours and people may have to go. So we discovered a bit what translation AI is. We explore the differences and the various benefits of machine translation and large language models, how they can be applied in different ways to support translators. We saw real applications of AI in translation. So we saw that that AI can help us improve our texts, improve readability, proofread and spot mistakes that we wouldn't be able to catch with other systems, rephrase, rewrite, provide alternatives, explain concepts, simplify terms. So really a ton of practical applications of AI that are extremely helpful for managing language tasks. We saw how Wordscope ensures the confidentiality of our clients' data by resorting to APIs, by integrating various paid licenses into a single subscription, and by sending segments separately to these various engines. And we saw Wordscope in action by seeing how we can interact with segments in the interface while accessing simultaneously multiple MTs, translation memories, suggestions, tools, etc. Now, as I promised, there is the final surprise, which is a special 40% discount on plans. As I said, you have various plans for Wordscope. You have a free plan that enables you to translate up to 3 documents per month while leveraging all these tools, even the access to paid licenses of tools like DeepL and ChatGPT. And you can do that for free. And then you have 2 more paid levels of licenses. And for the next 10 days until February 15th, you will have a special 40% discount on any paid subscription by using the code that you can see on the screen and that we can now type in the chat as well, which is WS, which stands for Wordscope, dash Fran, like in my name, dash 01. So with this code that you can use by the 15th of February, you can have access to this and explore. There is way more than Wordscope can do. We barely scrape the surface in this hour, but I just wanted to show how you can truly benefit from Wordscope for this. You can even try it for free for a couple of days, and you have more days until the 15th of February if you decide to opt for a subscription. But in my presentation, I specifically didn't want to highlight one of the aspects which of course is important, which is speed. Because of course, if you use machine translation as a starting point, you are faster in translating, you can potentially translate more, be more productive and increase your income. And in that case, we are all happy with that if we can earn more. But I specifically didn't want to highlight that because I don't want to make these a mere matter of money, of productivity. I wanted to show that you can use this tool to truly improve the quality of your translations. Because if you are able to explain complex concepts through AI and understand it better and therefore translate it better, if you are able to proofread and spot meaning-related mistakes that you wouldn't do otherwise, your translations are not only faster, quicker, or make you earn more, but they are just better in quality, sorry. They are enable you to deliver better and more accurate output to your clients. So this is something that as a translator I wanted to highlight, because if I only deliver projects faster, but they are full of mistakes or inaccuracies, or they are not up to the quality that I can deliver without resorting to these tools, I'm not interested in making more money. I mean, I didn't choose this career to just make more money. Otherwise, I would have made another career. I would be an entrepreneur and I would be on my boat now. But I did this because I want to offer excellent communication. And I wanted to highlight how these tools can help deliver better quality translations. So I specifically wanted to focus on that. I hope I managed. I'm sorry if I went too fast, but I really didn't consider that time would run so fast for this kind of hands-on demo. Now, I see that you have already replied to some questions in the chat. If you have
That's right.
If you have some specific questions for me as a linguist, as a fellow colleague, feel free to ask them. I think Maria and Philippe already answered all questions regarding technical aspects like supported languages, subscription plans, etc. I can see Valerie saying that as a sworn translator interpreter, this has gone a long way to allay my fears. Thank you. I'm happy with that. And so I hope that if we think of the questions that I addressed at the beginning, so how do you consider yourself regarding technology, and if you consider AI as an opportunity or threat, I hope that this gives you the idea that if you are aware of how to use these tools effectively, if you master them, if you learn, because of course using them properly requires a learning curve, but if you do that, you can really do all that and sees AI as an opportunity to work better and offer better services in terms of quality. I see that Fernanda opened her video. I don't know if she has a question or just wanted to say hi. Okay, thank you.
Well, if I may chime in, I
Sure.
just want to thank you, Francesco, for such a wonderful presentation. I agree with wholeheartedly with everything you said. I think aside from money and making a living, some of us have chosen this path because we are in love with not only languages, but communication and being able to empower other people to understand each other better. So I really wanted to thank you for that comment. It really resonated with me.
Yeah, thank you. Just going back, I'm scrolling through the chat to catch up with previous questions. So I just want to reiterate some important aspects. I see that unfortunately we couldn't touch it all. I showed you that terms that are found in public glossaries are highlighted in yellow. But of course, if a translation doesn't match your own private glossary, that will be highlighted in either red or green, so that you can immediately spot inconsistencies. And then another important aspect is that you do not have to own your own licenses of ChatGPT or DeepL or other tools. You can have access to all of them, unlimited access to all of them, with the Wordscope license. So even if, as I said, I'm not interested in making more money, saving money is definitely something that yeah, all of us are happy with. In addition to working from a single interface, you can also have access to all those tools from a single interface without having to pay for other licenses. And of course, you have a lot of shortcuts that I couldn't show in detail. And various TM options, fuzzy matches. Yeah, I mean, there would be a lot of things to discuss, but I mean, as I said, in an hour, I could barely scratch the surface. As for subscription plans, I see that there's a question in the chat. You can, oh, maybe it was sent to me privately, but you have I can just paste in the link in the chat, the link to subscription plans. As I said, you have a free plan, which you can use to translate up to 3 documents per month. And then, as I said, consider that in the various paid subscriptions, you also have unlimited access to all the tools that we mentioned. And if you think that just ChatGPT's Pro license is like 20 euros or $20 per month, plus DeepL and all the other things, I mean, you would pay way more if you had to sum up all the other licenses. I think that Vasil has to go. So thank you so much for attending. I hope you found this useful, and like anyone else, if you have any questions for me or for Philippe or Maria, feel free to reach out. I hope this was clear enough and helpful.
Yeah, and I think we can, if there's an interest for maybe a deeper dive into Wordscope, would love to potentially offer this to people. If you guys are interested, please don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll make sure to get that prepared for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Just let us know. We have many things to address still, from working in projects with multiple languages and connect using way more resources than what we show today. Just let us know. I see that there's already some interest. Or if you just want to go through this at a slower pace, you can watch back the recording, or we can organize this as a 2-hour session. I'm just reading the comments in the chat. Thank you so much for your kind comments. If you want, Philip or Maria, to take any of these questions, or just say a few words, feel free. I mean, I've already talked too much.
No, no, absolutely not. You did a great presentation, Francesco. Thanks so much. And we have seen that with all the interesting questions from the participant. As you say, if people have more or need additional information or maybe another training, we can surely organize a second session or a more private session. I think we have covered part of it, as you said, but the most important part of it. So the thing about AI is really to let people know that try it and don't fear it, and then decide if it's good for you or not. What I think. And I liked also very much when you say that having multiple MT keep your attention level high. And I think this is really a perfect way to say it, because otherwise, you're right, with one MT, you may start to do save, or next, and at the end it becomes hypnotic. So it might not be the best way so keeping your attention with that system is surely important for quality.
Yeah, I mean, as a translator, and I hope this was the contribution that I bring to presenting Wordscope. Of course, we are increasingly asked to do post-editing more and more. And sometimes you just feel like an AI janitor. I mean, you're just fixing mistakes. You're not translating, you're fixing mistakes.
Yeah.
And in the long term, this can be very frustrating. You can really lose your sense of purpose, the purpose of your work. Whereas if you have multiple resources and you have to actively think and reflect on what you want to use, you are truly sitting in the cockpit. I mean, there's this expression, human in the loop, which is quite strange to my ears. I mean,
somebody told me, a translator in Canada said, it's not human in the loop, it's machine in the loop, in fact, that we should say. Showing that machine is part of the game, but at the end, the human is the most important and decide what to do or what not to do.
Exactly. You know, you have additional resources. You can disregard those and translate from scratch. But if you want, you can use these resources and leverage them to enhance your translation. So my suggestion is just give it a try. You can give it a try for free, but I've just also pasted again the code in the chat if you want to try it for a while with unlimited access. So feel free to use this code. And I mean, I'm open to replying any answers, even if you have afterwards. You can find me and as well and Philip and Marie on social media. You can find our contact details.
Absolutely.
Of course, and make sure to not miss out on the code, because it is limited. So take note of it. And starting on February 15th, right? It won't work anymore.
Okay. I think it's time to
wrap up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go to lunch if you haven't gone yet.
Yes.
Or to breakfast.
Breakfast for
Thanks, everybody. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fernanda, Francesco, and thank you to everyone. It was.
Thank you all.
Thank you to Maria and for everyone to be. It was nice. Bye.